Well, in 2005, an Israeli archaeologist announced to the world that she had uncovered the ruins of King David's palace in Jerusalem.
Uncovering the Jerusalem of the Bible, layer by layer. In 2005, she started digging in the city of David with one goal in mind.
Israeli archaeologists working to prevent caves in the area from being looted filmed the moment of their discovery.
For thousands of years, the final resting place of King Solomon, one of the most legendary rulers in history, has remained a mystery. His wisdom, his wealth, and his temple have all been subjects of awe, debate, and devotion. Yet the one question no one could answer was this: where was he buried? Religions have built traditions around his life. Scholars have searched scriptures and scrolls for clues. Explorers have combed the deserts of Israel for centuries, but the tomb of Solomon remained sealed, lost beneath the sands of time, until now. Recently, a team of archaeologists uncovered something extraordinary: hidden chambers carved deep into the bedrock near Jerusalem. What they found inside left them speechless: carvings tied to Solomon's reign, inscriptions about the Queen of Sheba, and artifacts that point directly to the king himself. And at the heart of it all, the possibility that after 5,000 years, the tomb of Solomon has finally been opened. But with every discovery comes controversy. Were these relics authentic or cleverly planted? Do they prove the biblical accounts were real history, or just amplify the mystery? One thing is certain: the world is watching, and the implications could shake faith, politics, and history itself. Because if this really is the tomb of King Solomon, it changes everything we thought we knew. Let's take a closer look at what was discovered, and why the world might not have been ready for it. For centuries, the story of Solomon's lost tomb was dismissed as nothing more than legend, just a myth. But then, a long-forgotten tunnel came to light, and everything changed. Generations of explorers searched beneath the hills of Jerusalem, chasing whispers of a king said to be buried with riches beyond imagination. A king whose very name still echoes through history: Solomon. He was remembered not only for his legendary wisdom, but also for building a kingdom so wealthy and powerful that it left the ancient world in awe. Solomon rose to power as a teenager, stepping into the shadow of his father, King David. But instead of merely preserving the kingdom, he transformed it. Trade flourished. Gold flowed in abundance. And at the heart of his reign, he raised the first temple, an extraordinary masterpiece that took 7 years to complete. Its walls shone with cedar from Lebanon, its chambers gleamed with gold panels that caught the sunlight, and its stones were cut so perfectly they fit together without need for mortar. But Solomon's legacy wasn't only built in stone and wealth, it was also in wisdom. His judgments became legendary, like the famous story of 2 women who claimed to be the mother of the same child. Solomon called for a sword and offered to divide the baby in 2, not out of cruelty, but to reveal the truth. One woman stepped forward, willing to give up her claim to save the child. And in that moment, Solomon knew he had found the true mother. That single act of wisdom made Solomon a symbol of justice and brilliance across the ancient world. Even the famed Queen of Sheba traveled to see him, arriving with caravans loaded with gold, spices, and riddles to test his mind. But when she left, she was astonished. Not only had Solomon answered every question, he surpassed every story she had ever heard about him. His influence stretched far beyond Jerusalem. His ships sailed to distant ports like Ophir and Tarshish, mysterious places some believe were in Africa, others in India, returning with ivory, apes, and treasures that fueled his empire's wealth. In southern Israel's Timnah Valley, his copper mines poured out riches, and even today archaeologists continue to uncover evidence of that prosperity. Yet for all the grandeur of his reign, one question has never been answered. Where is Solomon's tomb? No stone marker, no burial chamber, no definitive trace of where the great king was laid to rest. Some insisted it must lie hidden beneath the Temple Mount. Others believed in secret caves or sealed chambers that time itself has locked away. But as centuries passed, the trail grew colder. Too many legends, too many dead ends. Eventually, even the most determined seekers began to give up, leaving the mystery of Solomon's final resting place unsolved. This wasn't the conclusion. it was only the beginning. Something had shifted. A discovery, whether by accident or fate depending on who you ask, cracked this ancient mystery wide open. And what emerged wasn't just a tomb, it was a message, buried in silence for 3,000 years, now clawing its way back into the light. What lay inside was only the start of a much bigger story, the relentless search for Solomon's resting place. We were led deep into excavated tunnels and shown one of archaeology's great wonders. It all began with a single crack in the earth, barely visible after a storm, that changed everything. For centuries, the quest for King Solomon's tomb had been like chasing shadows. Medieval knights dug beneath the Temple Mount. 19th century explorers tore through the hills of Judea. Every effort ended the same way, empty-handed. Some walked away convinced the tomb never existed, while others blamed misfortune or worse, faulty maps. By the time the modern era arrived, most experts had given up entirely. But recently, that changed. Dr. Emily Carter, an archaeologist known more for her love of dusty scrolls than the spotlight, stumbled upon something remarkable while combing through Jerusalem's archives. Among fragile Hebrew texts, old tax records from Solomon's reign, she noticed something unusual: payments directed to a location that didn't appear on any official record. A place near the city of David. A site so carefully hidden that even history itself had forgotten it. The city of David, as archaeologists often say, is a place where every spade of earth seems to bring the Bible to life. Armed with advanced radar technology capable of peering through solid rock, Dr. Carter and her team began scanning a rugged slope in Silwan. The work was grueling: jagged limestone, unstable soil, constant delays, and rising political tensions that threatened to shut the dig down altogether. At one point, clashes in the area nearly ended the excavation before it truly began. But the team pressed on, day after day, until nature itself intervened. A sudden rainstorm loosened the hillside, revealing a shallow dip in the ground. Something about the shape looked unnatural. Beneath that spot, the radar came alive, beating like a pulse. The scans revealed tunnels, not natural formations but carefully carved passages cut deep into the rock, 13 meters below the surface. Excitement spread through the team like lightning. They scrambled to stabilize the fragile site. Every dig was a risk. The tunnels weren't just hidden, they had been engineered with false entrances, designed to confuse and mislead. One wrong move and centuries of secrets could collapse with the stone itself. Late into the nights, Dr. Carter worked tirelessly, piecing together fragments of ancient inscriptions, symbols and markings that seemed to form a coded trail left behind to mislead looters and tomb raiders. Each clue pointed toward something more, a concealed entrance hidden in plain sight. The major part of this structure still lies buried, waiting to be uncovered, but already the evidence suggests that what rests beneath could be one of the most extraordinary discoveries the world has ever seen. What the team had uncovered so far was only a fraction, less than a quarter, perhaps far less. But the real turning point wasn't in the tunnels. It came when they stumbled upon a story, a half-forgotten legend whispered by local shepherds about a hillside that shimmered under moonlight and a wall that sparkled like stars. Dr. Carter found herself standing on that very hill. The ground was damp, her boots sinking with every step. The silence was heavy, as if the stones themselves were guarding secrets. Something about the place felt different. It felt real. They were close. They could almost sense it, just beyond that sealed tunnel, behind a doorway untouched for thousands of years. Something was waiting. What they discovered next didn't just add to history, it shattered it. The moment they broke through the ancient seal, time itself seemed to stop. This week, archaeologists announced what many thought would never be found: the long-lost tomb of a king. But one question lingers. What if the only thing standing between our modern world and a 3,000-year-old secret was a single slab of stone? A slab that was never meant to be opened. The seal didn't break quietly. It sounded like the earth itself exhaled after holding its breath for thousands of years. After weeks of battling jagged limestone, clouds of dust, and creeping doubt, Dr. Emily Carter's team had followed a fragile trail, from fading tax records to a forgotten hillside in Silwan. And now they stood before it, a massive stone slab buried so deeply in time it seemed the ground itself wanted it hidden. But this wasn't just another rock in the dirt. It was a barrier, a warning, a puzzle. Getting through it wasn't as simple as pushing or pulling. It was part of a larger system, deliberately engineered to guard whatever lay behind it. The tunnels leading up to it twisted into false paths and dead ends, some rigged to collapse if disturbed. This wasn't ordinary masonry. It was ancient genius, a defense designed to defeat even the cleverest grave robbers. As the ground creaked under their boots, Dr. Carter leaned closer. Etched into the entrance were Hebrew markings, 7 lines, 7 symbols, carved into a repeating pattern tied to the first temple's legendary 7-year construction. This wasn't decoration, it was a clue. The team got to work. Using laser tools and 3D scanners, they mapped every groove, every chamber, moving as carefully as if they were defusing a bomb. The air grew heavy with tension. One wrong move, and centuries of secrets could come crashing down, literally. For 3 relentless days, they shifted levers, aligned gears, and held their breath with every grinding scrape of stone against stone. The deeper they went, the quieter the tunnel became, like the mountain itself was listening. And then, it happened. A sharp crack, a deep rumble, and dust rained from above. Slowly, the slab began to move, not smoothly, not quickly, but enough to reveal a narrow slit, a doorway into darkness. Cold air seeped out, carrying nothing but silence. The team froze. Cameras rolled, capturing every second. Dr. Carter raised her hand. No one spoke. No one moved. This was history breaking open. The first breath of a story untold for 3 millennia. But what waited inside? The answer came with the beam of a flashlight. It struck something reflective, and the entire team stopped. No words, no breath. Just stunned silence. Gold, not myth, not rumor. Real, piled high, stacked in corners, resting where it had been placed thousands of years ago. The sealed chamber beneath the city of David wasn't empty. Along its walls sat golden vessels, etched with ancient Hebrew, their surfaces glinting as though they had only just been polished. For the first time, the world wasn't chasing a legend anymore. They were standing in it. During routine conservation work on an ancient synagogue in northern Israel, archaeologists uncovered something extraordinary, a Hebrew inscription, and with it, a chamber filled with secrets. The air inside was thick with scent, thyme, spices, resin, something earthy and sweet that lingered as though time itself had preserved it. At the far end of the room stood a 7-branched menorah rising from the floor, heavy and flawless. Its shape, its base, every detail matched descriptions of the menorah said to have stood in the first temple. Only this wasn't a replica for display. This looked real, possibly original, and it was only the beginning. Everywhere the team turned, the chamber seemed to whisper stories. Faded silk fragments hinted at ancient trade routes stretching all the way to India. Carvings in ivory spoke of deals forged with African kingdoms. Small jewelry boxes, some still clasped shut, held earrings and chains set with emeralds, rubies, and lapis lazuli. One archaeologist, unable to contain his awe, leaned closer and muttered, "This makes the British Museum look like a thrift shop." Then came the most stunning moment of all. A sealed clay jar cracked open, releasing a puff of fragrance, saffron, frankincense, and a bright citrus note. The spices were so vivid, so fresh, it felt as if time had simply paused. It was almost too perfect, as though someone had left everything waiting to be found. Yet, not everything made sense. Some objects bore symbols no one could identify. A few items looked stylistically different, almost as if they belonged to another era. For the archaeologists, the discovery is far from over. They believe this is just the beginning, each artifact a clue pointing toward even greater revelations still hidden below the surface. Could these treasures have belonged to Rehoboam, Solomon's son? Or perhaps to another ruler who tucked his wealth away beside a legend? The excitement in the room was real, but so was the doubt. And in a chamber like that, doubt has a way of echoing louder than wonder. Still, every item told a story. Each jewel, Each carving, each vessel added a thread to a tapestry that felt like it had been pulled straight from the pages of Scripture. Yet dazzling as it was, the chamber didn't feel like the grand finale. It felt more like a preview of something greater. The team moved with extreme care. Laser scanners recorded every surface, every angle. Not a single artifact was touched without documentation. Because in a place like this, one careless move could erase what the desert had protected for centuries. And then, another revelation. Fragments of a biblical scroll tucked among the relics, their fragile text surviving against all odds. The menorah alone had the power to rewrite what scholars thought they knew about the First Temple. But there was no celebrating yet. Everyone understood. They hadn't come searching for treasure. They had come for a tomb, and this chamber, magnificent as it was, didn't look like one. Still, a feeling hung in the air. This wasn't the end. This was only the first layer. And whatever lay deeper had been buried with purpose. The strange symbols, the unfamiliar markings, hinted at knowledge long hidden. The gold was breathtaking, but it was the writing on the walls that truly froze the team in their tracks. Still buzzing from the treasure chamber, Doctor, Carter and her crew turned their focus toward something stranger, something that promised answers even more valuable than gold. But hidden among the artifacts were treasures unlike anything Israel has seen in more than 50 years. In the flicker of torchlight, a cluster of carvings appeared on the stone walls. These weren't just decorations, they seemed to pulse with meaning. At the very center was a star-shaped seal, sharp and deliberate. It matched almost exactly the symbol described in ancient texts as the Mark of Solomon. More than just a king's emblem, legend claimed it was a tool of power, used to command spirits themselves. And the mystery deepened. The carvings extended outward, etched with geometric precision. Some were simple lines, others spirals and layered angles so exact they looked like blueprints. One archaeologist whispered, "This isn't just temple math. This is advanced. Ratios, measurements, angles, etched in a way that felt shockingly modern for the 10th century BCE. Even Dr. Carter laughed under her breath. We came looking for a tomb and found Solomon's calculus notebook." Then the team's lights caught something stacked neatly in the corner. Clay tablets, lined up as though waiting to be read. Each was inscribed with dense Hebrew script. Some were weathered and faint, others crisp and flawless. Over and over, the sacred name of God appeared among the lines. One tablet described the dimensions of the temple, almost word for word from the Book of 1 Kings. But another was different. Its language bent rules, breaking into riddles rather than records. It hinted at a key, knowledge hidden, not just written. Dr. Carter froze for a moment. Could this be a reference to the mystical Key of Solomon? A text long dismissed as legend, tied to secret rituals and ancient codes? No one dared to say it out loud, but the question hung heavy in the chamber. What if these weren't just instructions for building something? What if they were concealing something? And then someone noticed it, a chest, half hidden in a dark recess of the wall. Small, no bigger than a carry-on suitcase, but heavy-looking, sealed tight with metal latches. Its surface was carved with the same star symbol that glowed on the walls. No hinges, no visible lock, just silence. The air seemed to change as the team crowded around it. No one touched it, not yet. Opening the chest was risky, too risky, yet the temptation was overwhelming. Was this where Solomon's real secrets were kept? Could it even point to the Ark of the Covenant? Then came a twist. On the tomb's eastern wall, the team spotted something almost invisible in the torchlight, 5 lines of ancient Hebrew carved into stone. The words read, "May wisdom guide my hand as stars guide sailors." It felt personal, almost like Solomon himself was speaking across time. By morning, the discovery had ignited a global firestorm. Some experts hailed it as the missing link, the man behind the myth. Others dismissed it as too polished, maybe even a later forgery. Conference halls erupted, journals stalled, headlines screamed, "Solomon found" versus "Holy hoax." Through the chaos, Dr. Carter stayed steady. "We didn't set out to find a king," she said, "but the evidence keeps piling up. If that's not worth investigating, what is?" The words on that wall carried more than history. They felt like the only first-person trace of Solomon himself. And my ears are close to catching priests and mumbling old men. I will show you I am king in Israel. But one question remained. If the carving was real, then who or what lay sealed in the chamber ahead? Just days after decoding Solomon's haunting prayer, the team uncovered something even bigger. Inscriptions describing a royal visit in 950 BCE from the Queen of Sheba. The moment her name was read, time seemed to stop. This wasn't just a biblical reference. It matched the story told in 1 Kings and the Quran. Solomon and Sheba side by side in stone. Religious leaders across faiths reacted instantly. Rabbis, imams, priests all leaning over their scriptures. To some, the carving was a miracle, a bridge across millennia. To others, it reeked of forgery, symbols that didn't fit, timing that felt too perfect. Debates turned to firestorms. Scholars clashed, live streams roared, and accusations flew. Was it truth, tribute, or a trap left to stir belief itself? One thing was certain: the mystery of Solomon's tomb had only just begun. Jerusalem's leaders fought over claims to the site, but the carvings hinted at something bigger: an alliance between Solomon and Sheba. History, not just scripture. Then came the real shock. Hidden behind a cracked stone table was a gold ring, thick, royal, carved with a six-pointed star. Ancient, handmade, glowing in the torchlight. Was this Solomon's seal? His signature of power? Tests dated it to the 10th century BCE, but doubt lingered. Some said it was Hezekiah's era. Others whispered it proved Solomon used the star long before history admits. Handled like glass, the ring carried the weight of a kingdom. But just as the team thought they'd found the crown jewel, the chamber answered back. A wall shifted, an echo stirred. Behind it, not treasure, not
Song. At first, it looked like more scripture, but under the dust, the carvings revealed rhythm, spacing, music. Notes etched in stone 3,000 years ago. Harps, flutes, even the 10-string lyre of King David. Solomon hadn't just inherited a throne, he'd inherited a symphony. When an intern strummed the markings on a replica harp, the chamber seemed to breathe, worship encoded in sound. Yet doubts remained. Was it truly Solomon's? Or a later tribute? Babylonian? Persian? Then came the twist. Beneath the score was another seal, pointing deeper still. A path, maybe to the tomb itself. But here's the truth. Despite the artifacts, the ring, the music, Solomon's body has never been found. The mystery isn't solved. It's only begun. Archaeologists admit they've barely scratched the surface. Everything points to Solomon's era, yet no sarcophagus, no body, no king. Just symbols, songs, and a golden seal. A crown without a throne. AI scans hint at deeper chambers beneath the bedrock, but digging here means navigating the world's most contested ground. So the team waits. For now, Solomon's resting place remains hidden, but the echoes aren't silent, not yet.
So, have we just touched the edge of something bigger? Drop your thoughts below and subscribe, because if that next chamber opens, it could rewrite history.